Well,
All
thanks
right.
everybody for being here. And I know we have several regulars with us. So tonight we are happy to present this month's spiritual practice series, which is a series presented by the Sanctuary of Earth with the intention of bridging the theoretical, empirical, and philosophical with people's lived experiences. And we love to explore a range of topics such as spirituality, and consciousness. So we aim to provide our listeners with a range of options to promote individualization of our unique interface with the divine. And Sanctuary of Earth is happy to be in a perfect partnership with Richmond Ions, which focuses on the science of spirituality. And this series will, in turn, focus on the practice of spirituality. So we do meet once monthly, the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we hope you'll keep joining us. And as Susanna already mentioned, and I've shared a link in the chat, we do rely on donations to operate. So if you are so able, we appreciate any amount you can donate. You can click the link that I posted in the chat, and a suggested donation for tonight is $10 per person. Excuse me. So more about Sanctuary of Earth. Our mission is to actualize human spiritual potential on Earth and for Earth by providing a bridge between the cognitive and empirical to the lived, embodied, grounded, and practical. So we also are creating beautiful interactive online skill development modules, and hope you'll stick with us to check those out as well. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for this evening, Dr. Jah Howard. And Dr. Howard's focus in life is being an authority on practical life purpose. He's an author, speaker, motivator, practitioner of peace, and a profound lover of life. His program is based on the holistic, systems-based mental awareness with a balanced and integrated living philosophy. As an aspiring thought leader, Dr. Howard has helped leaders, inmates, students, and organizations around the world more effectively and efficiently execute their life's dreams, goals, missions, and aspirations. He is an author of a bestseller called You've Lost Your Damn Mind. And he's also been a featured expert in numerous publications, including Executive Excellence Magazine, Total Body Makeover, numerous national newspapers, and magazines as well. So thank you, Dr. Howard, for being here. We're all looking forward, I know, to learning about manifestation. So
Yes.
I will turn it over to you.
All right. That sounds so much better when someone else says that besides me. When I say it, it sounds like I'm bragging.
Happy to do it anytime for you.
All right, let's get cranking. Okay. Excuse me one second. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, the PowerPoint is there.
Oh, thank you. Where is the rest of it? Second. So, thanks again for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And good evening again to everyone. So here are some of the things that we're going to discuss. And we're going to start off with an introduction, who you are, what do you want, the acronym ASK, ASK with the small SK. We're going to step through an affirmative prayer together. We'll talk about seek and knock, practical implementation, what to expect. And we're going to wrap it up and end with questions. So who am I? I tend to think of life as some unreasonable paradox. So in one instance, I'm no one in particular, but in particularly I am. And so I won't go into who I am, but I do want to tell a significant story in my life experience that leads us to this discussion today. So I want to kind of jump back through time and go back to Baltimore, Maryland, October 1976, and tell a story about a time when I cut school and how significant that was to this particular conversation. So I'm in the 7th grade in junior high school, and it is the first time I actually have to take the bus to school. And I generally walk about 4 blocks and take the eastbound number 5 bus. And I'm standing at the bus stop. It's kind of drizzly, dreary, gray day. And this voice pops up. And I hadn't heard this voice in quite some time. I got familiar with it when I was younger, but today it just showed up and it whispered to me, go across the street, take the number 5 bus heading west as opposed to east, and I'll tell you when to get off. And I'm like, okay, because usually when I hear that voice, I generally do what it says. And so I get on the number 5 bus heading west, and I hear, get off here. I get off on this corner, South Charles Street and Baltimore Street. Now, up to this point, I had never been in downtown Baltimore without parental supervision. And I'm cutting class, so there was some double jeopardy there. So I have no idea what I'm doing down there, but I'm fully committed. I get off the bus and I head east. I'm sorry, I head north. And so I'm walking north on Charles Street. And if anyone's ever been there, Charles Street has sort of an incline. And so I'm walking up this incline. And as the closer I get to the top of this hill, the clouds part, the skies get clear, the sun is shining, and I see this. Now, I had no idea that this was in Baltimore City. Folks from my community just didn't venture to this place. And I am totally mesmerized by not only the Washington Monument, but just the architecture in general. There was cobblestone streets and just things that I'd never seen before. And for some reason, I was highly attracted to this because, like I said, it's the architecture, it is the clear skies, there's grass. The community I come from just didn't reflect this at all. And so I had no idea that this was actually in Baltimore. And the other thing that really caught my attention was this church. This church is still there, as a matter of fact. I didn't have a close-up of it, but it's this green Gothic looking building. And I just remember standing there for some time, just being aware that, you know, this is here. It's almost like what I had imagined at the time, what London looked like in my mind. And so I'm in a completely different world now. And then I looked to my left and I saw this. This is the Walters Art Museum. As I'm staring there, there was this class of elementary school students. And so the voice says, go get in line. So I walk over, I get in line, and I get this free entrance into this museum. And I had never seen a museum before, or been the inside of a museum. And I'm mesmerized with all the art and sculptures and all these things. And I just kind of hung out with this class to the point where I even got free lunch for the day. And so this particular moment in my life at the age of 12 is going, I had no idea, obviously, at the time that I would be talking about this today. But I'm going to tie all of this together, and you'll see how just this moment has played a significant role in my life. Now, this quote. This is our main topic for today. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened unto you. So let me give my disclaimer first. One, I don't want to talk about any particular religion or religious dogma. That's just personal stuff. And I use the Bible as a reference. To me, I tend to think of the Bible as an owner's manual for us to kind of figure out how to make this life work. And so most people are familiar with it, of course, and I can personally attest to how my life changed as a result of following the principles in it. Also, When I use the term God, this is a term that you have to define for yourself. What I believe is not the topic of this discussion, obviously, and I'm aware that some people have just different meanings and different relationships and things of that nature. But what I do want to hope is that by sticking around and sharing my experiences and processes, this may enlighten and elevate the both of us. And here's another quote that I like. You manifest what you believe, not what you want. Here's some ground rules for today. 1, know yourself. You must know who you are for this to work. 2, you must know what you want. 3, the answer is always yes. God always answers yes. Now, it may not look the way you want it, because generally it's for the highest version of ourselves. And usually when we're praying or asking, we're not asking for things for the highest version of ourselves. Manifestation begins within you. And so in order for your bigger dreams to come true, you have to do the in work first before you see it as outwork. 5, don't attach to the outcome. Rarely in my life has the outcome been exactly the way I had envisioned it in my mind, and generally it has always been better. Again, the answer will be for the entirety of you, mind, body, and spirit. 7, have to overcome your negative emotions. Dreams cannot survive in negativity. If you plant a seed of negativity, that's the fruit you'll bear. 8, patience is its own reward. You're on God's time, not yours. So things have to align. There's no rush. 9, you must persist. Continue on with expectation of delivery. There will be a time when you know it's done. So you don't want to dig up the soil to see if the seed has sprouted. You just have to let it go and trust. 10, strive to be the person in possession of your manifestation. You have to be it before you see it. And finally, show gratitude and bless your tribe or the people around you. It's important that you share your blessings. Who are you? This is the fun part. I kind of like this picture. This is a picture of narcissists, but in a positive way. I didn't want to use it in a negative way. So let's play a little mental game. So let's start with what you are doing right now. So as you're watching and listening to me, I want you to make the effort of becoming aware that you're involved in 2 sets of functions. On one hand, you're making the effort to keep your attention on listening to me. On the other hand, without your conscious effort and awareness, the meaning of what you hear is taking shape. But there's 2 sets of functions, are more apparent and more complex activities, of course. So while you need to think of getting up, for instance, and going somewhere, you don't really need to think about the details and muscular activities involved in getting up. They're taken care of for you. When you type, dance, play an instrument, perform in a sport, drive, write, etc., you can become aware of the fact that some part of your activities is performed without conscious effort. And so there's this dualization of your being into 2 fundamental sets of functions in this central theme of know thyself. One part of your being is concerned with activities that you have to direct, while the other deals with activities that occur without your attention to them. So I don't particularly like to use the term subconscious and conscious. I like the terms willed and automatic. And here's one of the things I find funny just about mankind. So it's been shown and proven that great performers make poor teachers. And in the instance for us today, we can all walk and talk with some degree of expertise. But we could not, similar to great performers, we couldn't sort of give you any detail as to how we actually walk or speak. We do it, but if we had to sit down and explain how, with the intricate details, we generally fail to do so. So what we tend to do is direct our attention to the desired result, and the other part of our being unattended takes care of the execution. Actually, while we're sitting here, that other part is without our attention or consent, determining what understanding you're extracting from what you're hearing. And at the same time, is taking care of breathing and probably digesting whatever you have for lunch. And so it's somewhat obvious that there's a vast difference between the two in terms of knowledge and capability of the two parts of our being. So while the will part of our being has to be instructed and is no better in its performance than the quality of the material taught it, the automatic part of our being is directed by some omniscient factor that made its presence probably the moment of conception. And I say probably because we don't really know. So what if the will part of our being, instead of learning from the ignorant will of others, learn from the omniscient being that directs the automatic within us, I'm sorry. And so that gives us three choices. One, we can rely on a part of our being that has limited knowledge and capability. Two, we could rely on a part of our being with infinite knowledge and capability. Or three, we can rely on a combination of the two. So what do you want? It says, make up your mind. I'm sure you've heard the saying that you can do anything you put your mind to. And that tends to lead folks to thinking that all you have to do is imagine what you'd like to achieve, set your mind to the task, and await success. And that's generally what's explained in the law of attraction. And I've always found that that law of attraction sort of leave out some pertinent details to that. So to a certain degree, it is true. So centered attention blended with action, it is a powerful force. But the statement is misleading because it fails to mention the difficulty and necessity of centering your mind on a particular goal. Most of us know, or I should say, most of us don't know what we want. We believe we do, but generally, we predominantly know what we do not want. For instance, we don't want an awful job. We don't want to be poor. We don't want to disappoint our family or friends. And so knowing precisely what we want is much different than recognizing what we don't want. And so when you solely know what you don't want, your intentions aren't focused. So keep in mind, again, the universe, God, always says yes. So if the focus is on what you do not want, that's exactly what we get. More of the stuff we don't want. Now, this is the acronym ASK, A-S-K. And I was really delighted the first time I saw this, and I thought, wow, that actually spells ask, seek, and knock. That was a pretty interesting play on words. And so this is about practical manifestation. So I want to talk a little bit about the divine system. So we live in, and it lives within us, this world of a unified working of a multiplicity of interdependent systems. So we're like complex systems living in a complex system, and then that complex system lives within us. And through it all, things and events in the world are unified by vibrational governance, or what I like to call harmonious unity. Religion with science, philosophy with medicine, but most importantly, natural man with God. And so, as curious humans, we've amassed many facts concerning how nature and universe work, but we tend to know nothing about the processes that ties all of these things together. So we created separate external systems of religion, science, economics, governance, government, education, family, philosophy, etc., just to try and explain it all. And without establishing that harmonious unity among them, well, we have the world we live in today. And so these three little words, ask, seek, and knock, are the key to unlocking universal manifestation, but we have to understand that this, as well as us, are part of the divine system. It is our natural position in the universe. And so I want to talk a little bit quickly about practical manifestation. And I use the term practical because if it's hard to use, it's useless. There is no dogma necessary. And again, it is our natural ability. So then we're just going to talk about ask with the little S-K. Ask and it shall be given to you. And so this is the beginning of our journey to alchemy, where we create things out of seemingly nothing. And I'd like to give you another story. This time, we're still going to jump back, but we're going to go back as far as junior high. We're going to go back to 1983. I am now graduated from high school. And so around this time, any story I gave you would probably start with, there was this girl. I was a teenager, and that's what teenagers did. And this particular young lady lived in a part of Baltimore called Cherry Hill. And Cherry Hill is this designed low-income community. It was homogenized. It was one way in. If you looked at it from sort of a sky view, it probably looked like a maze. All the houses looked exactly alike. And she would accompany her mother, who would come to the East Baltimore, where I lived. And we kind of connected there. Well, she invited me to her home on a Friday night, and she informed me that her mother was not going to be home. So any teenage male at that time would think, man, I'm going to get lucky. And so, I got cleaned up, took the number 28 bus that stopped right in, the last stop was in Cherry Hill. She picked me up from the bus stop, walked me through this maze to her house. And we got there to her porch. And as we're standing on her porch, I'm kind of wondering why we're not going in. There was this small crowd gathering of people. And she's addressing the crowd. And wasn't exactly sure who she was talking to at that particular time. But she mentioned, well, here he is. You said if you saw him, you was going to do something to him. And so it was at that moment I realized, nah, I'm not getting lucky this evening. In fact, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be. And so I'm standing there, and some person stepped out of the crowd. He looked like he was about 6'9", basketball player. And I'm in this situation. And here comes that voice again, the one that told me to take the bus. And it said to me, you need to run through this person. And that's exactly what I did. I tucked my chin and ran through him. And what I heard as I was running, and I can hear this crowd of people, reminded me of that old Frankenstein movie where they're chasing a monster. I hear, go left, go right, go left, go right. And somehow I made it out of this maze. And I run across Hanover Street Bridge, and I wound up downtown Baltimore, Charles and Baltimore Street. Kid you not. And at the time, there were no cell phones or anything, so I called some friends from a payphone and told them what happened. They came to pick me up, and with the sole purpose of going back to Cherry Hill and raising hell that night. And we did just that. And I got home that evening, and it was the first time I ever prayed for anything. I lied in bed that night and I said, God, I do not want my life to be like this. Because I've seen other generations of guys go through this stuff, and they graduate high school, they wind up staying on a corner, they start getting into drugs, and I didn't want that for my life. And I said, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. Next morning, an Army recruiter called. He says, I'm Sergeant so-and-so, and Army recruiter. And before he can finish his sales pitch, I said, come get me. And he was taken aback. He said, come get you. I said, I'm ready to go. And so he came and picked me up within the hour, took me to a processing station. I got processed in, went back home and still had had a couple of months before I actually left Baltimore, but I was going to be on my best behavior. So, I knew that I had to be, just kind of stay out of trouble for anything. And it's not that I was a troublemaker, I just kind of find myself in situations that seem troublesome. In the process of waiting to leave, my then girlfriend was pregnant. And I left thinking that I want to be a father to the son that I didn't have growing up. And so while I'm in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, every night, I just prayed, please let me be close to my son. And in Oklahoma, I went through, here's an acronym for the military, AIT, was Advanced Military Training. And it was there where I got my orders that I was going to be sent to Fort Bliss, Texas. And Fort Bliss, Texas was not some place that I obviously wanted to go to because it was in the opposite direction of where my son would be in Baltimore. And I just persisted with the praying. And it was about 2 days later, I bump into this guy who tells me that he's getting stationed in Fort Myers, Virginia, which is right outside of Washington, D.C., and exactly 45 minutes from Baltimore. And he gave me some information. Call this recruiter, tell him that you need to be here, and allow him to kind of set things up. I did exactly what he said. And within a week, my orders was changed from Fort Bliss, Texas, to being in Fort Myers, Virginia, 45 minutes from home, 3rd U.S. Infantry, Honor Guard. I was that guy with the blue uniforms you would see standing when the president came off the plane or standing in front of the White House or doing Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers. That was my duty station. And so I got to spend time with my son. So I tell these stories just to say that prayer does work. I don't know how, because from that point on, it was somewhat inconsistent. And I think there was the need wasn't as high as I thought it would be. And so I had just a couple of struggles after that, trying to figure out, like I thought there was some formula at that time, and I just couldn't figure out exactly what it was. So what exactly is prayer? And to whom or what are we praying? And so Mark 11:24 says, so I'll tell you whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And I call this affirmative prayer. Now, if you ask 10 people, you'll probably get 10 different answers as to what prayer is. Now, I'm going to make an easy assumption that we all believe in a higher vibration, being, universe, God, etc. So I'm not suggesting that you take my definition for it. But what's most important is that you understand that no matter how you define it, the act of praying and praying to whom or what is critical to this conversation we're having today. Got to get a sip of water. Now, here's a big secret. You don't have to believe any of it for it to work. It's universal law. And universal law exists despite any human acknowledgement of it. And so, for instance, gravity dictates that you will hit the ground if you jump from a tall building, no matter how fast you flap your arms. And so with that said, I want to talk a little bit about affirmative prayer. And when I think of affirmative prayer, I think about it like this. God is eavesdropping while I am having a conversation with myself. So in other words, I'm simply communicating in words, deeds, or thoughts with my higher self, and God is paying attention to that. So here's step one. We'll start with Matthew 6. But thou, when thou prayest, enter in thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. And 2, Jeremiah 31:33, I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. Now, as a student of the owner's manual or rule book, I can tell you that there are many transcriptions to this and other biblical references. But keep in mind that I'm not subscribing to any particular practice per se. I'm using this scripture because it's widely known and most prevalent globally. So step one seems pretty simple. Find a prayer closet. Now, many people set up altars with different paraphernalia to represent their connection and belief in a higher power. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not necessary. Your private closet is within you. And all you have to do is just close your eyes. You'll find your connection. So there's no place outside of you for you to commune with God. And dare I say, not even church. Step two, Matthew 6:5. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in synagogues. I won't go through the whole thing, but this is really about being humble and thanking God for the blessings you have. And so there's three components to this. One, asking for forgiveness if you think you need it. Two, saying what you need, and then ask for God's guidance in achieving your goal. Because again, we may not know exactly, we don't know how to get there. We just know where there is. And so there are many people in the world today, these religious hypocrites, you've seen them, the mega, well, I won't go into that. But there's some folks who like to publicly espouse their piety, and we kind of see it for what it's worth. And then step three, and this is a big one. And so essentially, in James 1, it says, consider pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds. In other words, it's saying that, look kindly when you're facing trials and tribulations, because faith produces that perseverance. And from that perseverance comes that glory. And so it's really about believing in your heart that your prayers were answered. And remember, God always answers yes. So we're going to step through an affirmative prayer. And I can't see you guys can't see me, but let's take a few minutes to just kind of close your eyes. I want you to take a deep breath in and then take a deep breath out. Take a deep breath in and take a deep breath out. Last one in and another breath out. Thank you. And just what I'd like you to do, just kind of calmly, as we go through this, I want you to kind of pay attention to how you're feeling about what's the words that I'm saying. It's important that whenever you are in a position of prayer, that you kind of pay attention to how you're feeling as the words are coming up, because it's an indication as to whether you have resistance to some of the things that you're saying. So, in that vein, repeat after me if the words move you. I am a strong, immovable spirit substance. You guys on mute? Right? I am a strong, immovable spirit substance. Am I on mute? Can't hear you guys. I am a strong, immovable spirit substance. I love me. I love us. And I love we. We are in the process. I am in the process of healing and regeneration. 2, I am within me. I honor your name. I use your wisdom for my guidance. I use your power for my strength. I use your abundance for my love and prosperity. I restore your kingdom within me. I do your will on earth as within me. Give me today tomorrow's supersubstantial bread. Forgive me my transgressions, as I forgive others who have transgressed against me. Lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from its darkness. The kingdom, the power, and the glory are within me, now and forever. God and I are one. God and I are now. God and I are always. In the presence of pure being, I acknowledge your presence and power, Blessed Spirit. In your divine wisdom, erase my mortal limitations. And from your pure substance of love, bring into manifestation my world of abundance, according to your perfect law. Wherever I go, I will create a peaceful, loving, and joyful world. Through divine love, I see and draw to me those beings who seek enlightenment through my process. The sharing will elevate us now. I don't chase, I attract. What's meant for me flows to me with ease. I can do less and attract more. I now release everything that is not serving my higher purpose. My dreams are steadily manifesting even while I sleep. Reveal to me how my life can get any better than this. The spirit of love is within me and emerging right now. This gift I happily express to the world. I am surrounded by others who love as I love. The timeline of my highest good, deepest desires, and ultimate fulfillment is now. I am a strong, immovable spirit substance. I am a strong, immovable spirit substance. I am a strong, immovable spirit substance. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, love, disciplined, harmonious, happy, abundant, successful, and beautiful. I am is now here, raising me to his consciousness of the omnipresent, all-providing God substance, and my prosperity is assured. I have unbounded faith in the all-present spiritual substance, increasing and multiplying at my word. Everything I need is provided to me before I need it. I rest in the assurance that by declaration, the living law is made manifest. I open my mind to receive all the good God has prepared for me. I accept it with thanks and share it willingly with all those around me. So be it. Namaste. Amen. That's it. Right. So Next, we're going to talk about seek, and you shall find. And this is about manifesting through spiritual visualization. The spiritual visualization is the technique of using your God-given imagination to create what you want in life. There's nothing new, strange, or unusual about this. In fact, we do it every day, every minute of every day. It's our natural power of imagination, that elemental creative energy of the universe, which we constantly use. And here's one of my favorite quotes by Wallace D. Wattles. There's a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. A person can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. This was from his book, The Science of Getting Rich. Again, we talked about this, that the mind is made up of two parts, the willed mind and the automatic. And so we think with our willed or rational mind. And so whatsoever we believe repeatedly sinks into our automatic or creative mind. Now, the automatic mind is like a computer. It can't necessarily think on its own. It can't differentiate between good and evil, between true or false. It just takes on face value whatever's presented to it. And so when the willed mind gives the automatic the same thought repeatedly, it takes that thought seriously and sets out to bring it into existence. Your life of experience is stored in the automatic, which it has access to. And so likewise has access to universal mind or God's mind, for which nothing is inconceivable. The automatic mind then brings about conditions in which our repetitive thought is manifested. And so, to understand, how this works, we have to comprehend that the preeminent language of the automatic mind is pictures. And so in that vein, yes, pictures are worth 1,000 words. And though it translates words equally well, it's just more easily shaped by pictures. And so that's why visualization effectively makes your automatic mind deliver whenever it is that you want. It's also crucial that we only visualize the end result, not the process or the procedure. We just have to tell the automatic mind only what we want and leave it to decide the process of getting it. And so there are a million of tiny little things. It's that butterfly effect. When we put our words out into the universe and we visualize, there are all of these things that have to take place, that have to line up. In this instance, I'm telling you a story about something that happened to me when I was 12, and here I am, 60, and it has culminated into us having this conversation. So things can take some time, and obviously I couldn't have envisioned this happening because I would have had to have known ahead of time that I would have meet Susanna and all these other things. And so if you just get out of the way and have faith that things are working and just allow it to be. And here's the 5 steps in seek. Mark 11:24 again, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you received it. So set your target. You have to decide on something you would like to have, work toward, realize, or create. And it could be on any level. 2, create an idea, a mental picture, or feeling of the object or situation exactly as you want it. And this sounds pretty simple, but being able to hold a thought with all the competing thoughts in your head really takes some effort. And it is not such an easy thing to just kind of sit down and go into some meditative state if you haven't practiced that. And so while you're trying to create this clear picture, what are you going to do for dinner? What are you going to wear? Like all these little things are competing for your attention that's already in there. So it will take some effort. You want to think of it in the present tense as if it's already exists. And this isn't the fake it till you make it. This is really experiencing the thing that you think about in the present tense as if it's already there. So you're not faking it, you're actually having that experience. And you want to imagine it the way you want it to be. And you can include as many details as possible. So think about that mental picture in your mind often, both in whenever you can find some quiet meditation moment, even casually throughout the day, when you just happen to pop into your mind, because it has to become an integrated part of your life. And it becomes more of a reality the more you project it, the more you see it and feel it. Focus on it clearly, but don't be so rigid about it. Just be light. Because if you think about it, you don't want to hinder the success of the manifestation by being so rigid. And again, number 4, you want to think about it in a positive, encouraging way. You want to make strong, positive statements to yourself. That affirmative prayer process that we talked about, that we just did, that it exists. Now, keep in mind, you're planting a seed. And so quite often in the Bible, when you think about it, they talk about gardens and seeds and plantings and things, because it is the perfect metaphor for how we manifest. When you plant a seed, if you want apples, you plant apple seeds. Now, in order to see that thing develop into a tree, you won't go to the seed and dig it up every day just to see how it's doing. Obviously, you wouldn't do that, right? That's where the faith comes in. You have to know that the seed that you're planting is getting ample sunlight, ample water, and the proper nutrients in the soil. And those are things that we have zero control over. Our job is to plant the seed and focus on that and give it the love and light that it needs in order to manifest itself. And think about this. Where we are today was a seed that we planted yesterday. Knock, and it shall be open unto you. This is really about the art of giving. So this is the third and final step in the ask manifestation process. So the word knock, in terms of how we use it for manifestation, this is the word of action. And so that first action in knock is to give. And giving back to other people is among the easiest ways we can contribute to society. You see, giving opens up space for you to receive more of the things you want. It's this mysterious message to the universe that says you're available and you're open to obtaining the gifts that you desire. And so in giving, the biggest lesson often learned is that you have more than you'll ever require. So in that respect, giving teaches you to be more grateful for what you have instead of focusing on all the things you don't have. Usually, when we think of abundance in terms of giving, that giving is the heart of abundance, we think about the accumulation of goods. But fundamentally, true abundance is about freedom. It's about well-being, fulfillment that isn't dependent upon outside circumstances. Abundance is finding out how to trust in life, particularly when it appears that lack is prevalent. It's about fully living and being conscious and present and whole. And consequently, the quality of your attention is the true measure of abundance. And it's the largest capital asset we have. And the thing about abundance and this idea of giving, if you believe that you lack, then you're going to hold on and restrict the energy that you want flowing to you, the in and out, right? You can't fill an already full cup. You have to empty it out. And so if, for instance, you're trying to manifest money and you're really tight with just allowing that money, you don't plant money seeds into the universe, then you can't grow that money tree, so to speak, just metaphorically speaking. You have to open yourself up and allow the energy of give and take to flow through you. And here's that two-step process for knocking. And it starts with 2 Corinthians. The point is this: whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. And whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. So, step 1 is finding time during your day to be thankful. And it really doesn't require a whole lot of effort. You just have to be thankful for what you have. And then when you plant seeds for what you want by giving in kind to others without expectation of them giving back, share your gifts with others as you would have the universe share its gifts with you. It's pretty simple. So here is the practical application of ask. Simple formula. You pray affirmatively. And so the ask that you want to answer is for the whole you, mind, body, and spirit, that will satisfy your whole being. It may or may not be what you exclaim in the moment of pain or desire. Prayer generally happens during inspiration or desperation. And most of the time in my instance coming up, it was usually desperation. The only thing you have to be concerned about is when you ask is that you grow big enough in consciousness to receive and maintain the answers to your prayers when it comes, and allow your blessings to flow through you and bless others. If you are the firewall, you create lack. If you're the place where the energy flow of giving and taking from the universe stops with you, you are the firewall. And so you have to show gratitude and give what you wish to manifest, because the seed that you plant will return fruit in its kind. Can't bypass the process. So just to refresh, here are the 11 points to remember. You must know who you are. You must know what you want. And if your desire is not answered in the way you desire, keep in mind, it's always for the highest version of you, not the small, limited choices we tend to make. You must grow to meet your dreams, in work before outwork. May not look as you want it to, but you'll always get what you need in the moment. Guess it should have been numbering these. 6. It's going to satisfy your mind, body, and spirit, the whole higher version of you. Dreams cannot survive in any negative environment. 8, again, you're on God's time, not yours. Things have to align, so don't rush. You must persist. Continue on with expectation of delivery. There will be a time when you know it's done. And I can't really, it's hard to explain a feeling, but there's this feeling that comes across when you're in the process of being persistent about your dreams, when you just have that feeling that it's done. I don't have to put any more energy into the manifestation. I've done enough. You've given it enough of the love and nutrients that it needs in order for it to grow. So don't worry and dig it up to see what's happening. You just have to let it go and trust that it's happening. And you'll be surprised when it just somewhat appears right before you. And it seems like a surprise, but it's not, because you've done all the upfront work. And in that process, be it before you see it. If you're wanting to be at a level, I'll use the example of babies. Like, babies come into this world with the desire to walk, but it can't walk before it picks its head up. And and so there's a process. It first learns to pick its head up, then it learns to roll over, then it learns to crawl, and then it works out this balance thing. And the next thing you know, it's taking steps. Like that is the process to walking. That and it's inherent within babies. Like that's their desire. I need to get moving. And so, but there's all these little things that it has to grow into before it can take that first step. And then finally, you want to show gratitude and bless your tribe. And this is my favorite quote, probably because I say it all the time. It's question everything. Now, we all have different backgrounds and we've had different experiences in life. So everything I'm telling you today is what worked for me. And so for me to tell you this, I'm simply saying that yes, the process works, but you have to figure out how to take it and customize it for yourself, right? You may pray differently. You obviously want different things than I do. And so I'm saying to you overall that the universal law of ask, seek, and knock, which is natural to you to manifest, works. It's not going to work exactly as I said it worked for me. And sometimes I'm surprised when I put something out and there's an instantaneous deliverance of what I asked for. But then there are other times when it seems like it's not working at all. It's just that sometimes things take longer than others. And so you'd have to, when I say question everything, I'm saying to you, you have to ask God, how can I take this concept and make it work for my life? And then follow the guidance there. Because I can tell you, one of the things that I've lacked in life has always been patience. And when I thought things weren't manifesting as quick as I'd like it to, come to realize that it was teaching me patience, because patience is a higher life for me, a higher living for me, to be patient with expectations that things are happening, because I know for a fact that God always says yes. But, you know, waiting on him to deliver, and I say him, but waiting on the delivering, on the manifestation of what I'm asking for, I struggle with the patience. And so in that process, I've learned to be much more patient, knowing that yes was the answer to my request. Right. Now, there's this series, Ask, Seek, and Knock, and also a daily gratitude journal. The daily gratitude journal is it's sort of it's a day-to-day to kind of keep you focused and connected to God in a way as you go about your day, where you take that moment to just show gratitude. It's been something that I've done regularly, and I thought, well, what if other folks want to know, how to express the gratitude? And within this, on a day-to-day basis, there are some tasks for you to, so not only is a journal, it also is an exercise book in terms of, so today I'm going to take on this task, which is going to help me solidify my gratitude. And both of these are on Amazon, along with some other books. And it's probably easier just to search on my name, and you will get a list of all the things that exist on Amazon. And with that, I'll end with questions. And I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Jay. That was wonderful talk. So thought-provoking and well delivered.
Thank you.
I have a question, but I will pause to see if anybody else wants to lead off the questions.
Go for it.
Thanks, Tina. All right, so I have to admit I have a complicated relationship with manifestation.
Mhm.
And maybe this is just my own version, as you were saying that we have to find our own path.
Right.
Because at least for me, and this is, I'm sure, not true for everybody, for me, I feel like the things that I want and have visualized in my life have, for much of my life, have come from my ego and has not been very healthy for me. And, unless you take this lesson of the wholeness that you said, and well, that's what I needed as opposed to what I wanted. What I needed was the lesson.
Yes.
So from
Yes.
that point of view, I guess it's exactly right. So but for that reason, instead of visualizing what I think I want, I I focus on the guidance. And you brought up guidance near the end,
Mhm.
but I noticed you didn't mention it much earlier when you were talking about the seeking. And
Yes.
so I'm choosing now to live more through guidance, like what does spirit have in store for me? Because I've also discovered that what spirit has for me is so much better than my limited imagination and my ego-driven imagination. So what's your thoughts and suggestion about manifesting in that light?
So at some point you realize that, oh, let me back up a little bit. So you think about there are millions upon millions of things in the universe that we could want, but there's a very small finite list of things that we actually want. And so the things that we think we want actually want us too. And so I am a firm believer that as we sit in this present moment, we have the ability to look forward and the ability to look backwards, right? But I also believe that there's a version of us who's ahead of us that can also look back too. So you're manifesting guidance, right? So that's your manifestation. I'm manifesting guidance because I become aware that my ego doesn't serve me well. And I've been there. I know, like I've always chased stuff. But when you allow that guidance, it will take you through the lessons. And even if you're manifesting things, it's already built in that you're going to get the guidance anyway. And that's why I said, don't focus on the process, because you have to level up to this other version of you that's going to be the person who's worthy, I won't say worthy, who can live in that manifestation. And so when you're looking from a guidance standpoint, you're going to get that anyway. It's just that your focus is more on the guidance. And so you're manifesting that and you're living through that. And so we're always manifesting all the time. I got to go do this. Like we think these are just random thoughts, but we're always creating things. And so living through guidance is exactly where I am today myself, because I realized that when I look at those little tiny things that I thought I wanted, and it was always an exercise in patience, or the thing would kind of show up and wouldn't be exactly what I wanted. I had to learn a lesson from that. And so I'm with you on the guidance now. And so I rely on that. And that's that third, well, it's the second option of how we live. If we live through that omniscient energy, as opposed to that limited, ignorant piece of ourselves, that conscious mind, and allow that connectivity to the God substance working through us, that is the life that we all strive for. That's the piece that's missing. So that's the manifestation that you've accomplished now, just living through that. But there are things particularly that you desire. We all have things that we desire, things that's calling us, that's drawing us near, like this call, your business, those things. At some point you probably couldn't envision, one, that we'd all be here in this particular moment, because there are no, and so here we are, and you've created this business, and we met in Richmond before I left, and so all these things have taken place because there was a Susanna of February 7th, 2024, that you probably didn't know, back in 2019 when we met.
Yeah, I sure didn't envision her to be that. So you're saying that we are just choosing to live more intentionally with the guidance, but that's always happening. So is there an advantage of being more intentional living through guidance and having that part of the willed mind as opposed to having that be more automatic?
Yes, it's funny. So I relate that to the Garden of Eden. And if you think about the story, that was the way we were supposed to be. And so as we start to develop this, I'll call it man-made knowledge about things, and we start to label things, and we disconnect it from our entire being, where there should be connect. Like, so all of this supposed to flow through us. This is what we're supposed to come back to. We're supposed to live through this spirit, this energy, but we're not taught that. Like, the world doesn't exist that way. It feeds us all these images of, chase this or chase that or achieve this, and you find that most of society is unhappy, right? I mean, just today, if you think about it, you turn on the news and it's all Donald Trump and his stuff. Like, they just feed us all this negativity about things, and it just distracts us from who we are. Now, I don't know if it's a concerted effort to do that on purpose. I just know that it exists. And so when we get back to who we are and we realize we are these magnificent spirits just encased into these human meat suits, and we understand who we are, and that was the whole point about who we are, and we understand that we are connected to the divine, we're connected to one another, and that nothing moves without this sort of group think tank, where we might think we're out here doing this thing on our own, but we're all connected. And so that's the design. And we just sort of forgot that because we've been taught away from that. So we're just kind of coming back. And I swear, like, I wish I had figured this out when I was younger. We all say that, but it's that thing where that's where the wisdom comes in. We live this life having a human experience, only to realize that we're really spirits. We're having a spiritual experience just wrapped in this human suit. It feels good sometimes, I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes it's kind of cool. You touch things and we have these senses and we get excited, but at the end of the day, we know that there's a deeper level to us than what we tend to experience mostly on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tom.
Hi, Jay. I think
Hey,
the
how you
last
doing,
time we
Tom?
spoke was in January, February 2021. You were just getting ready to leave the area or something.
Yeah,
Good to
yes,
see you again. This was a
yes.
wonderful talk. It really
Thank
was.
you. Thank you.
I'm I've spent a lot of my own life figuring out how to manifest things, and you do just a beautiful job of tying it in with uh, religious and biblical language and so forth in a way that is really, really wonderfully accessible, and admire you for that. So thank you
Yes,
very much. I, I mean, I was blessed. We all we all chose our form of childhood dysfunctional homes to
yes.
grow up in, and to teach us some lessons along these lines. And mine was to have a mother who was a paranoid schizophrenic. And but what it taught me was from a very young age was that thoughts are things,
Yes.
and where she learned, she was not, she didn't know she was doing it, but she was using her disarrayed mental states for psychokinetic purposes,
Ah,
and not knowing she was doing it,
right.
and uh, and so it taught me that how powerful those things can be. And
Absolutely.
I did not die with a religious iconography like you have, but it's a wonderful way you've developed of expressing it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, God didn't create religion. We did.
Right, right.
We created religion. And it's funny to me how that subject had expanded across all these different dogmatic practices
Mhm.
about things when, it's almost like if I said, okay, I want everybody to sit down and we would come up with some system to
Right,
figure out how to do what we're naturally doing right now, right? It doesn't take any effort for us to be who we were meant to be. But
right.
when you're taught to move away from that,
Well, it does take some effort because we're
yes,
taught from almost
yes,
from the first breath to be something else.
absolutely,
All
absolutely,
of us are.
yes,
And
we are.
so it takes some doing to this know thyself stuff is not an easy path.
It is not. And that's just when I like to say I'm really no one. Like and I mean that I am a collection of everyone, right?
Right.
But
Well, each of us is.
each of us exactly. And
Yeah.
so I'm you and all of you at the same
Right.
time, I'm me. So that's sort of the paradox. Like
Right.
I'm kind of wrapped up in this thing, but I'm connected to everybody and I'm connected to
Right.
all at the same time.
We're all just part of one single consciousness. We just
Absolutely.
don't know it.
But you
Most of
can't
us.
say that in general conversation when someone says, "Who are you?" Well, I'm you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What kind of weird planet did you come from? Right. Yeah.
You got to give them your label. I
Don't
am
say that
Paul.
too much around some of those Trump people that, they might take offense.
Yeah, it is an interesting sight to see because you see the training that we got as humans that we're supposed to worship something outside of ourselves,
Right.
and you see it, and so they're just following along the trainings that they have, you
Oh, I
know,
know.
and so not realizing that, yeah, he's just a regular dude, just like the rest of us, you know.
Right.
But at the same token, you kind of lose your power because you give it away to something else
Mhm.
outside of you.
Right. Well, again, thank you very much. I
Oh, man,
really
it's been my
enjoyed it.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Sorry I had to be here late because getting home late from work.
Has another late night. Any more questions or comments for Jay?
Well, I wanted to add, how long did you stay in the Army?
I did a total of 6 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, when I got to I'll say this in jest. Um, my duty station was shining buttons and boots and doing parades, and so I was like a toy soldier.
Uh-huh.
And then after it was over, they wanted me to go to the real army, and that's when I decided to check out. Like, if it's my choice, I'm
Uh-huh.
not going to Korea or China. Like, I don't have any issues with
Right,
anybody
right.
fighting. And so I have my college money. It's time for me to kind of vacate and just kind of do my own thing.
Yeah, friend Lindley Smith, who's not showing his face on here, is down on the screen with his face covered. He was a Green Beret.
Ooh,
Yeah.
man.
There you go.
I hope
All
I
the
didn't
males on
offend
here
you with what I just
were
said.
military guys. Huh?
You're
I
muted,
said, I hope
Lindley.
what I said wasn't offensive because you the real deal. I was just there 6 feet tall with wide shoulders, and so
Yeah.
I had to represent.
Well, it wasn't my idea in the beginning. The United States Army drafted me, so I said, "Well,
Oh, okay.
I might as well make a fun out of it," and I volunteered for the Green Beret while I was in the military. And that was in the Vietnam War.
Okay.
You were already finished medical school then, weren't you,
Yeah, I
Lindley?
had finished medical
Yeah,
school,
yeah,
and I was drafted
yeah.
because I had 4 children, and I was drafted because it was we were at war, and also I was in the middle of I and the Tet Offensive. We went in the year before the Tet Offensive,
Hmm.
and then after training at Fort Bragg and Fort Benning and jump school and everything else, I was sent overseas.
Yeah, Lindley was 6 feet tall when he went in, but after all those parachute jumps, he came out, he was only 5'8".
Look, uh, ironically, in the beginning of last year, I was marveling at the fact that I said, "Look, I've got over 150 jumps, and I've done all these things, and I'm seeing all of these people with lower extremity problems, and I've not had one. And and then about 3 months later, um, my hip started bothering me, and I just came off of a hip replacement
Oh.
2 months ago.
Mm.
Well, good. I hope you're recovering well, Lindley. I remember
I'm-
you were lying
I'm-
down last time we saw you, so hopefully you're feeling better.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad you could make it tonight. Any other thoughts or comments or questions for Jay, our speaker? Tammy, are you unmuting?
Me. Hey. Hi, Jay.
Hey, how you
Wonderful
doing?
presentation. It's
Thank
very
you.
nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you
Um,
too.
My question is, what is your take on being brought to that intersection both those times? What's your read on that?
At the time, you see it in hindsight, but at the time, I didn't see the connection between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And in both instances, I was kind of bought there. One for inspirational purposes, and the other one was definitely desperation. And I didn't think of it as a home base. But you know, at that particular time, I got a sense that I was in the wrong. I've always felt like I was in the wrong place. Like for some reason, I was dropped off in this community and in this neighborhood and in my family, and I didn't really recognize the growth that would come from that.
Mm-hmm.
And in that particular instance, I had a choice to either go home or do some shenanigans. And I decided on the shenanigans, but after it was over, because there were some people who got injured. And I just felt like, growing up, I could see the teenagers before me and how they would go, and you would see them as men, and they'd just be kind of hanging out, alcoholics or drug addicts. Not all of them. Some would disappear because they would get locked up. And it just seemed like the trajectory of the males in my community. And uh, I believe that that recruiter would have called me anyway that morning. But the fact that I prayed and he called after I prayed, I was like, because if I hadn't prayed to say and committed, sign that contract, that I'll do whatever you say. If he had called, I probably would have. No, I'm not gonna do that. But I made that commitment. Whatever you say, I'm going to do. And going into the military at 19 years old, out of that community, I felt like veal. I felt like a calf. Like I grew up in this small, tiny. When I got back from basic training, the neighborhood, my house, it smelled. It was small. That community, like I hadn't seen anything outside of that. And so I go from a concrete. They call it a concrete jungle. We didn't have grass or trees, and I go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It's just flat and grass. And I was 19 years old the first time I smelled spring, flowers blooming. It was the first time there was this scent and I didn't know what it was. And, I'm like, man, it really smells good. I'd never smelled that before. And so my mind had expanded in just the 4 or 5 months that I was gone. So when I came back, the world that I had left was too small for me then. I could not fit back into that. And so I didn't see the connections at that time. It was only when I took a look back and go, man, I wound up right back on that corner again. Or I went from enjoying like classical music and live plays and like things that I could never convince my friends to do, at that time. But it just opened up an entire world for me to appreciate. And had I not cut class that day, I would have never seen it. So it's fascinating to me,
Fascinating. Yeah.
how it all goes.
Pondering it all.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because it's easy to look back and kind of see how the dominoes, fell and damn, I probably shouldn't have made that decision. But I still learned, so we don't make mistakes. We just make choices and we kind of live with the results. But those two, just kind of listening to that inner voice and making those, taking those actions has been, you know, just an amazing journey for me.
Yeah. I agree. Listening to those voices tend to take a lot of the troubleshooting out of the way often.
And you know, it's funny, people say if you're hearing voices, you're crazy. But that's the stuff we hear, right? So if you hear that, you tend to want to ignore it because you don't want to be crazy. And so that's one of those other trainings that we get about,
Programming.
you know, yeah, it's programming, absolutely programming.
And it just makes us more crazy. It makes us really
Absolutely.
crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we realize that life is really unreasonable.
Oh my
But
God,
it makes
guys, can you
sense.
imagine? They're going to be looking back going, can you believe they used to think they were crazy for
Yeah.
listening to their internal guidance?
Well, a lot of people still do, so keep it to yourself.
I know, but you know, the day's coming someday, I'm imagining.
It is. That energy is there.
Sooner than later, probably.
It's a lot more of it going on now.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. Any more thoughts or questions for Jay? Jay's full of endlessly fascinating stories, just like Tom. You could have a story-a-thon and see who.
That's called a life well lived or lived well, one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Actually, we're just students and we're hard-headed, and so it just takes a lot for us to get it. So we have remedial classes a lot of times.
Well, thank you so much, Jay, for just such an engaging presentation and thought-provoking and practical, just like you promised. And next month's speaker is not going to be quite so engaging, I don't think. But I found with some dismay that it was me, so I thought I better put together a title quickly. So we're going to be talking about spiritual bypass
Okay.
next month, and it's something Tom and I have talked about. So maybe Tom can pitch in a bit, and it is March 6th on this Zoom channel, and I hope you will consider joining us. And again, we'd very much appreciate a donation if you feel so inclined to help support our program. I also want to point out that we are just, the ink is still wet on our next series of classes. So we're going to be offering spiritual intuition development, clairaudience, clairvoyance, and clairempathy. Our next clairempathy class actually starts on the 27th. I think that's a Tuesday, so it's the last Tuesday of February. So we're going to be finishing out that cycle and then restarting with clairaudience. But we have a lot of other offerings coming up that I listed on this flyer. And later in the week, I'll be sending a more complete list or another round of some more courses and also a survey, because there's so many topics now we want to offer. So we're going to see what folks are interested in. We're going to be offering retreats. So a lot's happening now with our program offerings, and I hope you'll stay tuned and join us. I put the link to register for the classes in the chat. So I think that's it, unless somebody has any other last minute announcements or questions. Tina, is there anything else we need to cover?
No, not that I had on my list.
No, but thanks again, Jay, for a great
Thank
talk.
you
It really
again
was nice.
Yep.
to
Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody.
James.
Thanks for
All right.
coming. Good
right
night.
next month.
Bye-bye.
Mhm.
Oh, good.